You know, when I was a little girl, I didn't think much about the American flag. It was always around. The school, football games, and outside big buildings that didn't mean much to me back then. It was just there, everywhere. What I noticed was my dad. My dad is a Navy veteran, and I grew up a Navy brat, or as we refer to them, a military brat. And maybe that's why the flag has always been a part of my life. I was just a kid during America's Bicentennial in 1976. I remember the red, white, and blue everywhere. Flags on the front porches, like mine, patriotic decorations in the stores, special events at school. We even learned patriotic songs for a big school program. There was a sense of excitement and pride that seemed to bring everybody together. And as a kid, I didn't fully understand the history behind it all. I just knew it felt important, that it meant something, and that the adults around me cared about it. Looking back, I think that was one of the first lessons I learned about patriotism. Not the kind that makes a big scene, but the everyday kind, the kind that shows up in traditions and values and gratitude. As kids, we didn't always understand what was happening around us. We don't think about service or sacrifice. We just knew that our family was a little different. We knew Dad had a lot of stories, and boy, a lot of stories. We knew there were uniforms hanging in the closet, and we knew there were rules in our house that our friends didn't seem to have. And somehow, even when we couldn't explain it, we somehow knew service mattered. As I got older, I started to connect the dots a little bit. The flag wasn't important because of the fabric it's made on. It was important because of the people connected to it. Then life came full circle. I went from being a military brat to serving my country and then becoming a military mom. And that has changed everything. Because when you're the kiddo, you see one side of military life. But when you're the parent, you see a completely different side. You see the worry and the families counting down deployment calendars. And you see the kids trying to be brave when they miss their parent. And you see spouses carrying the load at home while trying to keep everything together. You know, military families get really good at saying, we're good, it's all good, everything's fine, even when things are hard, especially when things are hard. And somewhere along the way, the flag started meaning something different to me. Not in a bigger way, just in a deeper one. Because as every military family knows, that behind every ceremony and salute, every folded flag, and every playing of the national anthem, there are real people, real stories, real sacrifice. And that's why I think that understanding the flag really matters. Not because everybody has to agree on everything, because goodness knows that's never going to happen. And it's not because everybody has to express patriotism the same way. One of the freedoms we enjoy as Americans is the freedom to think, worship, speak, and express ourselves differently. And in fact, our service members defend that freedom every day. I think the flag matters because understanding it leads to appreciation, and appreciation leads to gratitude. One thing that has surprised me over the years is how many people were never taught the history behind our own flag. Nobody has ever explained why it's folded 13 times or talked about what a folded flag means to a military family. Nobody explained why some veterans stand a little taller during the playing of the national anthem, or why some families get emotional when they hear taps. And it's not because people don't care. They just simply were never taught. And if nobody teaches the stories, those stories eventually disappear. For military families, the flag isn't about politics. It's personal. When I look at the flag, I think about my dad. I think about the men and women who volunteered to serve, those who came before me, stood beside me, and followed after me. I think about military spouses holding down the fort during deployments. And what a hard job that is. Think about kiddos learning resilience long before they should ever have to. I think about families who made sacrifices most Americans, thankfully, will never have to make. That's what I see. I see the people, not politics. And one of my favorite things about the military communities is how they preserve traditions. They tell stories. They tell them while we're standing in the lunch line. They remember names and they smile or laugh or pause. They pass lessons from one generation to the next. And I think it's because they understand something important. That if we stop teaching the meaning behind things, like the flag, eventually we stop valuing them. And that's true more than just about the flag. It's true for character and respect and integrity. And that's part of why my new book, Integrity, feels so personal to me. Because when you start talking about military service, you end up talking about values, like keeping your word, doing the right thing, and treating people with respect. Those lessons don't just belong to the military either. They belong in our homes and in our schools. That's what makes this year especially meaningful. We're approaching America's 250th birthday. Wow, 250 years. And when I think about that little girl growing up during the Bicentennial, surrounded by flags and parades and all the patriotic celebrations, I can't help but wonder what she'll pass on to the next generation. Will people know the stories? Will they understand sacrifice and appreciate the freedoms that they're given? Someone took the time to teach me those things, and now it's our turn to pass them on. Maybe that's really what this is about. It's not just about the flag, it's about remembering and teaching and passing those stories on. That may be why I see the flag differently now than I did as a kid. I don't just see the stars and stripes first. I see my dad, the military families, and service members standing watch while the rest of us sleep. I see sacrifice and freedom and our responsibility to keep those stories alive. Because if we lose the stories, we lose the meaning behind the symbol. If this brought back a memory or made you think of somebody you love, please leave me a comment and tell me about it. I would love to hear from you. And I'd love to hear, especially from my fellow veterans, military spouses, and military brats like me. And if you'd like to keep up with reflections on service, family, and character, I'd be honored to have you subscribe. And until next time, I love you.